Many people enjoy hobbies like gaming, dancing, cooking, etc. Others might venture into more risky areas like bungee jumping or underwater diving. The thrill of the adventure, the rush of the adrenaline, and uncertainty is what makes dangerous hobbies worthwhile. One such similar activity is cave exploring. Humans have a long connection with caves, starting from the Stone Ages when our ancestors used to live in them. Although centuries have passed since then, the mystery attached to ancient caves, as well as their fascinating structure consisting of narrow alleys, is what entices explorers to put their backpacks on and jump inside the nearest cave. In spite of that, some fun experiences can always turn into horrible disasters, sometimes even causing deaths. So here are 5 cave exploring stories that went horribly wrong. The Great Crystal Cave Incident. This story is about a very ambitious cave explorer named Floyd Collins. He lived in Kentucky, which houses a series of interconnected caves, now part of Mammoth National Park. During the early 20th century, a growing trend emerged that included using caves for commercial and tourist purposes. The tourists paid the property owners for a cave tour, which led to the exploitation of caves for commercial benefits. Seeing the tough competition in 1917, Floyd jumped on the bandwagon and discovered the Great Crystal Cave, which he intended to attract tourists. However, to his disappointment, very few tourists visited the place as it was a remote location. Floyd decided to try his luck again and began looking for another one that was near the main road, and hence easy for public access. His efforts led him to enter an agreement with his neighbor that had a small cave on his property. However, little did he know that this new opportunity was actually a death trap. Collins worked tirelessly for 3 weeks and expanded the hole to make a proper entrance. This was later called the Sand Cave. He worked his way through narrow pathways, with some of them just only 9 feet tall. It was later claimed that he found a grotto chamber inside the cave and was trying to establish a proper entrance so that tourists can access it. On January 30th, 1925, his gas lamp began to dim as he was working for hours on end. Collins tried to exit the cave quickly before the lamp gave out, but became entrapped in a small passage. He knocked over his lamp, and a large boulder fell on his left leg, immobilizing him. After a day, his family and neighbors contacted the rescue team, which began their long and difficult operation to extract him. His case had attracted a lot of media attention and was one of the first news to be broadcasted on the newly developed radio. His body was finally recovered on February 16th. Unfortunately, he was no longer alive. The Mossdale Tragedy. Mossdale Cavern is a cave system in Yorkshire, England. It's about 5 kilometers north of Grassington Moor. This place was always the center of curiosity, as some believed that there are tons of undiscovered passages that can be unblocked by blowing it with dynamite. Bob Leakey, a well-known cave explorer, found this cave when he was looking for his lost tobacco pipe. Many years forward, in 1967, 10 friends had set out to explore the Mossdale Cave. Many of them were experienced cavers who had been to the cave before and knew the risk very well. Interestingly, all of them were aware of the weather forecast for the day: heavy thunderstorms and rain. Despite that, they've all decided that it was safe enough to continue with the trip. They split into 2 groups, with 6 of them aiming to reach the farthest end, called the Far Extreme End Cavern, while the other 4 intended to only go a small distance, which only took them about 40 minutes. The 6 group members wanted to use dynamite to blast the furthest end in an attempt to find new passages. The smaller group exited at around 5 p.m. as they didn't want to go very deep. All of them waited in a nearby area for the other group to come out. When the rain got heavier and flooded the cave entrance, police were called and 300 people volunteered to help find the missing cavers. Fire service pumps were used to lower the water level, and a small hole was created to collect the rainwater. Once the water level started to lower, rescuers were finally able to make their way into the cave. Tony Waltham found the first 2 bodies and later on found 3 others. The last person, John Ogden, was finally retrieved after 2 failed attempts. However, any attempts to bring them to the surface was ruled too risky, and the cave was sealed in 1970. Shortly after, the bodies were relocated to another blind end inside the cave and were made a sanctuary. A funeral service was held, and a plaque was constructed in their honor. The Nutty Putty Cave Incident. I was debating if I wanted to include this, since this incident is well known and all over YouTube, but I figured I would include it for those that have never heard this incident. This sad incident occurred in the famous hydrothermal cave in Utah County called Nutty Putty. It was discovered in 1960 by Dale Green, and so named because of the clay deposits he found in this cave. This might be perhaps the most heart-wrenching one, as family members saw one of them slowly die in front of their own eyes. John was a medical student who went to this cave as part of an excursion along with his friends and brother, Josh. Caves were no stranger to John, as he recalls childhood picnics that would involve cave hunting. However, this was his first time in the Nutty Putty cave. The brothers split into two groups, along with their friends, to explore different paths. John chose a popular passage called the Birth Canal, and with some struggle went forward into it. He then navigated into a waist-high hole with his head first, pushing along with his hips. His other friends found this path way too narrow to take chances with, so once inside, John didn't have much room to turn around and exit. So instead, he kept moving forward in the hopes that there might be a clearing nearby. John did find a fissure in the canal that appeared to have widened the passage a little bit. This might have given him a chance to reverse his direction, so he stooped low to inspect it. It's predicted that he may have held his breath to shrink himself down, but unfortunately got stuck in the crevice. Struggling to free himself only made him go deeper into the fissure, as both of his arms were pinned and of no use. John, being 6 foot tall and 200 pounds, was now stuck, head down, in the tight fissure. When his brother came to know about the situation, he called 911. In the meantime, Josh made small talk with his brother to divert his attention. They prayed together and talked about their girlfriends and Josh's future. The rescue team arrived and had very limited option due to the size of the cave. They couldn't use large drilling equipment due to the smaller space, so the only option they had was to use a pulley system to pull him up. After hours of setting up and slowly reeling him up, they were able to pull him up inches at a time. All seemed to be going well until a loud snap was heard on the pulley system. The pulley had failed, and John fell back into the hole that he was trapped in. After being stuck upside down for 12 hours, darkness started to encircle him, and he began to fade. At the beginning of his ordeal, he was speaking to rescuers, and his spirits was high that he would be rescued. With every hour that passed, he responded less and less, until finally, he stopped responding at all. John had died on the spot. The blood and toxins were all drained towards his brain, and he perished not long after the pulley system failed. Due to the difficulty in recovering his body, it was decided that retrieving John would be too difficult, so a decision was made to seal the entrance shut, with John still in the cave. Nutty Putty Cave would now be his grave, and this would also prevent any future incidents from happening. A plaque was made in his name and placed outside the entrance to Nutty Putty Cave. Interestingly, a prior incident also happened in the same area that John was trapped in. A 16-year-old boy named Brock Clark had been exploring the cave when he slipped and trapped himself upside down. The rescue operation took nearly 14 hours, and fortunately for Brock, he was rescued successfully. The Nam Talu Incident. A British couple went out on a holiday in Thailand where a woman lost her fiancé in the caving disaster. Helena was a 21-year-old from Solihull, accompanied by her fiancé during their year-long trip around the world. They both have saved money for their upcoming vacation in Thailand without knowing the calamity that lays ahead of them. John and Helena was exploring the 500-meter deep Nam Talu cave when heavy rainfall started to develop outside the cave. When they reached halfway in, the water with enormous pressure rushed into the cave. It was so strong that it swept the tour guide, a 10-year-old German boy, and his Swiss family with their 2 daughters, claiming their lives altogether. Helena had also lost grip of her partner and slipped, but John was quick to react and grabbed her. He found a ledge that was high above the water and made Helena take shelter there. The both of them sat in complete darkness, thinking about what to do next. John insisted that he went back into the water to try and find help, but the water was still a raging torrent, so Helena insisted that they wait for the water to die down. After some time has passed, John made the decision to go back into the water to find the exit and get help once he was out on the other side. Unfortunately, as he made it back into the water, he was swept away by the powerful water current. That was the last time that Helena had saw him. Helena was now alone in complete darkness as there was no light source in the cave and the torches were gone. Helena was trapped for a total of 16 hours on the ledge before rescue finally arrived. The Cave Creek Disaster. This incident occurred on April 28, 1995 in New Zealand's famous national park, Paparoa. This park is famous among visitors for its scenic beauty and unique rock formations. Cave Creek happens to be one of its most popular sites of all time. This location consists of a 4-story deep chasm. The chasm had a cave in between from which a small stream emerged and spreads out. The Department of Conservation created a platform over this chasm so that visitors can overlook the cave beneath. On the aforementioned date, a group of students who were guided by a Department of Conservation officer visited the park. The first group of 17 students arrived, not knowing that this platform isn't strong enough for their weight. Very soon, it collapsed, and the students, along with the officer, fell 30 meters below and landed on jagged rocks. When the second group arrived and assessed the damage, they immediately called 911 for rescue. However, due to the remoteness of that area, the rescue team was incredibly slow to respond. The first officer took 2 hours to arrive on foot, but was later followed by rescue helicopters. 4 of the victims were extremely injured, but were later extracted from the canyon. However, the remaining 14 died due to the terrible neglect of authorities. It was later discovered that the platform wasn't approved by a qualified engineer beforehand. In addition, it had another grave error. The platform wasn't bolted on the rocks. Rather, it was secured by nails to keep it in place. The steps of the platform wasn't designed properly, and it wasn't even granted a building consent. The improper construction and no inspection meant that it was bound to collapse at some point in the future. The incident resulted in an inquiry into the safety of other natural locations. The widespread criticism also resulted in New Zealand's Minister of Conservation, Dennis Marshall, to resign. $2 million was granted in compensation for the victims, and a memorial plaque was unveiled in 1996 to remember the victims. Cave exploring is a one-of-a-kind experience. It's a fun activity, yet no one knows how it will turn out to be. Surprisingly, many of the people in the above stories were trained individuals or had multiple previous experiences, yet they still all perished at the hands of uncertainty. A key takeaway here is that no amount of training or human logic can counter the force of nature. So many rescue officers, volunteers, and other people put all their effort to save their loved ones, but unfortunately, fate has some other plans for them. Exploiting nature for commercial purposes is very harmful and destroys the overall layout of the planet. Caves are mysterious entities. Their beauty should be admired and preserved, and efforts to disturb them should be discouraged. Thanks for watching our Late Night Top 5 channel. We're a new channel and would love to have your support by subscribing, liking, or simply dropping a comment down below. To watch more interesting late night videos, click the links to continue watching more.